Baltic Sea. Draining the icy waters here reveals a forgotten German aircraft carrier that never saw battle. Graf Zeppelin. It disappeared more than 70 years ago. Why is Hitler's only aircraft carrier lying heavily damaged at the bottom of the Baltic Sea? For decades, the ultimate fate of the Nazis' only aircraft carrier is a mystery. But then an oil survey vessel begins scanning the Baltic Sea.
First of all, we came across something that piqued our interest. We found it with an indicate that it's about 260 meters long.
It's the largest wreck ever found.
It was a really big find.
Now, diver and historian Stephen Burke is in the Baltic to investigate the monster of the deep, the Graf Zeppelin.
When I first learned about the Graf Zeppelin, nothing was known as to what happened to it at the end of the war. What happened after that was a complete mystery. I made it my mission to go out and find what the faces of the ship had been.
In the darkness, nearly 290 feet down, there are only glimpses of the lost giant. Timber decking on the flight deck. Massive chains from one of the anchors. The Luftwaffe is mad for its ceremonies. The Nazis had huge ambitions for the vessel. More than 40 fighters, bombers, and torpedoes. Winston Churchill.
The British were very concerned when we complete the Graf Zeppelin. There was a significant threat.
But the Nazis are slow to finish this vast warship. Though launched and seaworthy, final work is delayed time and time again. February 1945. The Nazis face defeat.
To destroy certain key assets to prevent them falling into Russian hands. And one of those assets was the Graf Zeppelin.
But that isn't the end of the story. It was abandoned on the River Oder. After the war, the Russians seized the vast vessel as booty.
The Russians raised it, so they sealed the holes, they pumped the water out and floated the ship.
Then they decided to use the Graf Zeppelin for a unique Cold War expedition. Stephen Burke visits the Polish Naval Academy in Gdynia to investigate. He's working with former Polish naval officer Adam Olejnik.
We have a picture, a lot of them, if you haven't seen it before.
They used mapping technology to scan the wreck. By using the detailed sonar scan, now, for the first time, hole in the deck.
It looked like the result of bombing.
The hole wasn't there when the Germans abandoned the ship. So what caused it? In August 1947, the Russians want to see how much punishment the Graf Zeppelin could take before it sinks.
So they planted a series of bombs inside the wreck. 2,000 kilo bombs that are detonated on the flight brought only 5 or 6 hit.
The Soviets have no aircraft carrier of their own.
Sinking the Graf Zeppelin showed the Russians that aircraft carriers were not necessarily as easy to sink as they might have thought. They wanted to know how you sank.
Nazi secret technology reached around the world. And draining the oceans reveals evidence of it in the most surprising places. The English Channel.
They call it the first stealth submarine in history.
This vessel vanished in 1945, carrying a lethal secret technology. What made this killer Nazi sub invisible? Germany in peril.
In August 1944, the situation for the German U-boats in the British Channel was rather grim, because it was one of the best defended areas around the British Isles.
The Allies have a highly effective method for hunting the submarine raiders. Sonar. Earlier in the war, the Nazi U-boats savaged Allied shipping in the Battle of the Atlantic. Largely by hunting in packs on the surface, where sonar is of limited use. But by 1944, heavy surface patrols forced the U-boats to operate completely underwater, making them much more vulnerable to Allied sonar.
Submarine in the English Channel at that time were extremely dangerous. Your chances of survival if you're the commander of a U-boat are about 50-50.
The Nazis want to counter the threat of sonar.
The German answer to sonar detection was developing some kind of cloak of invisibility.
By August the 21st, 1944, Hitler's designers have achieved their dream of stealth technology.
He sinks 4 ships, and he gets out. It's the most devastating patrol carried out in the Channel up to that time. It's quite remarkable.
Will draining the waters of the English Channel help explain this Nazi secret? Underwater archaeologist Innes McCarthy investigates reports tiny regular holes. Instead of reflecting sonar signals back to an Allied warship, these rubber panels
And on a black rubber panel. And I was like, I don't believe what I've just seen.
Diminishing the effectiveness of the other side sonar could well make the difference between life and death.
Today, in Kiel, Germany, one of U-480's sister boats.
U-480 wasn't a part of a new design.
But draining U-480 raises another critical question. If it is undetectable, why is U-480 at the bottom can now be revealed? It has sustained a critical blow. The stern section is broken off, and there's a hole in the pressure hold. Wise resort to a very old-fashioned response. Mines.
The trap that U-480 fell victim to was a secret minefield.
February 1945. Shipping lanes crisscross the channel. But all Allied vessels are secretly warned not to British lay what's called a deep-stack minefield way below the surface. Then wait.
U-480 returned to what had been its old hunting grounds, expecting to find several targets. But
Known locally as cenotes.
There are many caves, so it is easy for any inexperienced diver to go into one of these caves and get lost, or run out of air when you are in there. And that can be fatal.
Mario discovers that many of the cenotes are linked through deep subterranean channels. But that's not all. They also display a remarkably similar structure.
Normally, in sedimentary rocks like limestone, you expect them to that position.
When seen from above, an extraordinary picture begins to emerge. The cenotes form an outline. It looks like the rim of a gigantic crater. The most likely explanation is that a massive asteroid strike reshaped this region, and then the sinkholes formed in fault lines around its edge.
Could this be the crater that's linked to the death of the dinosaurs? Today, millions of years after the creation, the heart of the impact site lies concealed not just
To the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, but under several thousand feet of sedimentary rock. Rocks from the crater itself.
To really understand impact cratering, we actually need to pull rocks from ground zero. We need to find a place.
In 2016, an international team of scientists drilled down from this specially adapted oil platform.
And so we're pulling up limestone after limestone after limestone. We're getting ages from the fossils within them. We know we're at 48 or 50 million years, but we're not yet at 66, right? And then things suddenly jumped in time.
The team hits a years old, the exact moment when the dinosaurs died. Next, the team analyzed the rocks to calculate the asteroid's power. Comparing their data to that generated by nuclear bomb tests.
We can come up with an estimate of the amount of energy released, and that turns out to be about 10 billion radians.
To create a 3D visualization of the crater, now hidden deep beneath the Earth. And discover how a single asteroid impact in the Gulf of Mexico could wipe out dinosaurs right around the globe. First, the entire Gulf must be drained away. As the water recedes, it reveals a vast continental shelf running around the coastline. The crumpled plain is thick with sediment, but the crater is still hidden under thousands of feet of rock within the Earth's crust. Now, by studying the crater's profile, it's possible to determine the size and speed of the asteroid. It's over 7 miles wide, and it travels at 40,000 miles per hour. And the crater's dimensions tell us something else. 30,000 cubic miles of rock are displaced here. Vast amounts hurled into the atmosphere, setting off a devastating...
Thrown up through the Earth's atmosphere, starts to orbit the planet. And when that rock comes back in, it's got a tremendous amount of potential gravitational energy. It heats up the atmosphere to toaster oven or pizza oven temperatures, frying everything that doesn't have a place to hide.
Almost every living creature within 600 miles is killed by this deadly fireball. But those further away do not escape.
Later that day, the tsunami waves wash up on the shore. These could have been hundreds of feet tall, maybe even half a mile tall when they hit here, and they would have run up through the continent. Animals that are still alive would have heard the wave coming toward them, but wouldn't have seen it in the darkness.
But the asteroid strike becomes a truly global disaster for one specific reason: where it hits Earth. This part of the planet contains rocks high in sulfur. On impact, the sulfur is vaporized, blasted high above the Earth.
Well, that sulfur combines with the atmosphere and becomes sulfate aerosols. And sulfate aerosols are excellent at blocking sunlight.
This deadly cloud shrouds the planet, and the Earth begins to cool. While studying the crater in more...
But that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep making sure, given the circumstances.
As we drain the Gulf of Mexico further, it's possible to reveal areas where humans are drilling thousands of feet below the seabed to exploit a natural resource formed 100 million years ago: oil. But how did a failure while drilling in the Gulf of Mexico turn into the biggest oil spill in US history? The economy of the Gulf of Mexico is driven by oil. This vast oil-rich basin accounts for 17% of total U.S. crude oil production. Nearly half of America's oil refining capacity sits along the Gulf Coast. But it's offshore